Hi guys, Deb here, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about harvesting. And I just picked up the mic because it sounded funky the first try. So, when you're trying to be self-sufficient and grow your own food, one thing you don't really think about too much is the harvesting. So I'm sitting in what was once upon a time a dining room, but since I don't have a garage, we do some stuff in here. So one of the things that I grew was amaranth, and I grew it because when I used to be a florist, it was one of my favorite things to design with. So I'm going to show you just a little bit of how to process your amaranth. But this is the kind of thing that you have to do with a lot of different stuff that you grow. So the first thing that we harvested was the quinoa, and it so far is the hardest thing to harvest and process. Easy to cut down, but processing the quinoa was tedious, and we ended up with half a cup of quinoa or some crazy thing. Not a full cup, I don't believe. So not even one meal's worth of quinoa, though we had probably 30 plants. So I may have harvested them slightly early because of beetles on them. That seemed to me like a good point to say that it was done. But anyway, I wanted to show you one of our best harvests that we've had this year. It's kind of funny. Is popcorn. Glass gem corn. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's multicolored, and the red is just so beautiful. And each stalk has its own little color of corn, and they're just absolutely beautiful when you harvest them. And that was really cool. It seems stupid and nonsensical maybe to grow popcorn, but I thought to myself, you know, if the S hits the fan and our world just implodes, at least we'd have some kind of snack food. Well, this was, at that time it was an if, but as I look at the news today, our world is becoming like the movie Idiocracy. It's so crazy and so stupid that, to me, I think that it ended up being a pretty good thing to grow. And I would encourage you to grow it because it was super fun to grow. But then, you know, I'm going to have to figure out how to get it off of the cob. It's supposed to dry for 3 months, but I have noticed some kernels falling off already. So I'm just going to show you. This is the amaranth that came off of one of my plants. I grew some red, and I grew some giant golden amaranth, which is not quite dry enough to harvest yet. But I'm just going to do a little bit here so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully you can see what it looks like, how to do it, so you get kind of an idea. This, when you're rubbing it between your hands, does not feel good. It hurts. You know, I've always had kind of rough hands, kind of more on the masculine side than the feminine side, because my skin is just kind of tough. But when it comes to gardening, that's a really good thing. So, all right, I'm going to show you this. As I rub it between my hands, little amaranth seeds fall into the big tote. The big tote is more so that when they flick around, they can fall into the bottom of the tote and you won't lose them. So amaranth is kind of like a grain. I'm told you can pop it, or you can make it into flour. When I bought the amaranth flour at the store, I didn't like the way it smelled. So I'm hoping that I can find a way to use it that I'll really like it. But it was spectacular to grow. It was such a beautiful thing to grow. So far, I have processed probably 10 large heads. I'm not sure. Because they were kind of smaller ones. A lot of them, and some are bigger. You can see them here on the ground. And I've got probably a couple cups or more of the amaranth seeds. So when I was thinking about the title for this video, I was thinking about all these people that walk around with signs that say, or stand with signs anyway, will work for food. But when you start growing your food and processing it and seeing how much work it is, like, we went out and did some weeding today, and you got to get out there when you can, when hopefully it's not 100 degrees to do that. It's a lot of work. Most people think of the weeding when they're thinking about growing their own food, but a lot of people don't think of this kind of thing. Well, this is not hard work, but it's tedious work, and it does take a considerable amount of time. I still have a large bag of pecans from when we harvested pecans in the fall, because it takes a long time to shell them. The more I think about the work that's involved in growing your own food, the more I think if we had to do all this ourselves all the time, I think we would not eat so much. Maybe one large meal a day, because it simply just takes so much time and energy to do these things. Another thing that I've harvested is I grew mustard greens, and when they went to seed, there are mustard seeds in it, and they're in these teeny tiny little pods, which you got to break open and get 3 or 4 mustard seeds per teeny tiny pod. And even though that was really tedious, it was not as tedious and hard as the quinoa. The quinoa so far is the worst. But all of this is pretty interesting and fun to me. Honestly, if this is what life was really like, if we lived a more farm-based life, I'm not thinking the right word right now, sorry. You would get into a lot less trouble because you're working all the time. There's always something to be done. So, I was planning on doing this garden this year before the lockdown. I had it planned, I had it drawn out. The lockdown just made it much more necessary. So, what I think is that if we lived this way, I think it would be easier to live the family life, because you need each other, and you'd have a whole lot less time to do things wrong. I also think that a lot of times when you're out there and you're working in the yard, you're thinking, I can go and get this at the store for, $3. I'm spending hours in the garden watering and such. And while that might be true for a short more time, I don't think it's going to be true for that much longer. So I would like to encourage y'all to learn these things that our ancestors knew that we don't know. And try to be as self-sufficient as you can. I know not everybody has half an acre, 3 acres, 10 acres. I know that, but you could do something. You could maybe grow herbs in a window garden. But learn how to do these things, so that if it becomes necessary, which I think it probably will, you'll know what to do. I just wanted to leave you with this thought that the next time you think about those signs will work for food, or the next time you see one, I want you to ask yourself this question: am I really willing to work for food? I think we haven't had to do that. We've had a luxury of not doing that. But I think you're worth working for food, and I think food is worth working for. And it can be enjoyable. I mean, what's more enjoyable right now in these lockdown circumstances than to be outside, daying around playing in the dirt, watering stuff and seeing stuff grow? I used to think as a young lady, watching grass grow was really dull. That's what, oh yeah, that's like watching grass grow. But you're not watching grass grow, you're watching things that will develop into food for your table. So, while my garden, I was trying to count the rows in my mind, and I can't remember exactly how many I have. 12 maybe, between 25 and 35 feet. While these rows are not able to feed my family yet, and I really thought they would come close, there is so much to learn about soil, your soil, where you're at, and how to grow. I have learned a lot because last year we got like a pretty good carrot harvest and pretty good herb harvest, but we weren't able to really feed ourselves much. And this year we have used something from the garden every single day, whether it be a tomato or a cucumber or a carrot. Just try it. You don't know that you won't like it if you don't try it. You might really enjoy it. Anyway, you might really need it even if you don't enjoy it. So, if you've made it this far, watching me in my thrashed room with 50 billion different colors and junk everywhere, my makeshift garage, I hope that you'll like and subscribe and watch some of my other videos, which are really oftentimes much more heavy-hitting than this. But this is more my practical side. I hope that you enjoyed thinking about it and learning about the stuff that I was talking to you about the amaranth, about the popcorn. We just think that popcorn is regular corn because it comes in yellow, just like the ears of corn that we eat fresh. But I've got to tell you, I don't know if you can hear this. This stuff is hard. So when you take it off of the stalk, it's already hard. These little things are hard. So it's totally a different kind of corn. I also grew some blue Hopey corn, which is not the kind you eat like this either. I didn't have as good a luck with that. It wasn't windy enough where I planted it, and I planted it in like straw bale and soil mixture, and they really liked the clay soil better on the side of the house where they got more wind. Also, another point about growing corn is it likes to be in bunches. It doesn't like to be lined up too well. It likes to be in bunches. So, anyway, I was kind of all over the map, but you know me. That does happen. Anyway.